I'm Misha, Adobe creator and producer of the Deep Dive podcast. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 23, and today we will be doing a deep dive into the Elder Scrolls. Okay, it looks like Grace and David have their snacks ready and are settled in behind the microphones, so let's get going.
You know that feeling? Stepping into a game world, and it just feels limitless. Like you can go anywhere, do anything.
Oh yeah, total freedom.
For so many of us, the Elder Scrolls has basically been that feeling for, decades now. It's such a cornerstone of RPGs.
Absolutely. And it's really fascinating when you trace it back. See how they actually built that sense of freedom over a whole that time. It didn't just happen overnight.
Exactly. And that's what we're doing in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've got some great material looking at the whole history, the evolution of the series.
From the very beginning right up to, well, now.
Right. We want to map out how it went from that initial concept to the massive thing it is today. Think of it like, I don't know, digging into the DNA of Tamriel itself. Our mission for you listening is to really get a handle on how this whole thing developed, pinpoint those key moments, those shifts in design, and maybe understand why it's kept us hooked for so long.
Uncovering some surprising bits along the way, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. So let's kick this off. Where does this whole epic saga actually begin?
Okay, so it starts back in 1994 with the Elder Scrolls Arena. But the interesting thing is, the initial idea was actually pretty different.
Oh.
House was originally conceived more as a gladiator tournament game.
Yeah.
You know, your team travels across Tamriel, fighting in different arenas. That was the core concept.
Huh. So way more focused on combat, less on wandering around. What made them change tack?
Well, the ambition just sort of grew, I think. The developers saw the potential for something much, much bigger. They were looking at tabletop RPGs, games focused on player choice and stories that just emerged.
Right, like D&D or something.
Exactly. And also games like Ultima Underworld, which were really pushing immersive first-person exploration back then. So they made this pivotal decision to shift gears. Let's make a full-on RPG, a massive world.
And Arena's world, even though it was procedurally generated, which, let's be honest, could make some areas feel a bit sparse.
Yeah, definitely.
That commitment to letting the player just go, that nonlinear approach, that was huge for the time, wasn't it? You weren't just following a set path.
Precisely. That procedural generation, maybe it had its downsides back then, sure, but it was foundational. It established that core principle. You're free, roam around, discover things, do it your way. And the name itself, the Elder Scrolls, even though its meaning was kind of nebulous at first.
Right. What did it mean back then?
Well, it hinted at these mystical tomes, this deep lore, ancient secrets waiting to be found. Even the name suggested depth.
That's cool. So the mystery was baked in from the start. And the launch might have been a bit rocky technically.
It had its issues.
But Arena really did lay down the blueprint, didn't it? Exploration, character freedom, this rich fantasy setting. It planted the seeds.
Definitely planted the seeds. And then just 2 years later, in 1996, comes Daggerfall.
Whoa. Talk about ambition.
Right. They took those seeds from Arena and just went exponential. A world supposedly the size of Great Britain, thousands of places, NPCs. It's mind-boggling, even now.
How did they even attempt that back then? It wasn't just bigger, was it? It was deeper, too.
Oh, yeah. Much deeper.
Trade in your boring job for a brilliant career using Adobe Creative Cloud. Start learning now with the free trial link in the description.
Daggerfall brought in a way more complex skill system. You could really tailor your character, specialize in things.
Okay.
And the whole interaction with guilds and factions got way more involved. You could actually join up, climb the ranks, influence things. It wasn't just window dressing.
And the main story wasn't just one straight line either.
No. Branching quest line. Multiple endings based on your choices. That was a huge deal for giving the player real agency over the main narrative, really making your decisions matter on a grand scale.
That idea that you could change the outcome for the whole region, that must have felt incredible back then. You weren't just watching a story, you were part of it.
Totally. Daggerfall was pushing the limits of freedom and simulation in RPGs like nothing else. You could just get lost in that world, its systems, its sheer size.
And there's always a bub with that level of ambition back then.
Yeah. The tech maybe wasn't quite ready for the dream.
Bugs. Performance.
Oh, yeah. Lots of bugs, performance issues. Pretty common for those early, massive 3D open-world games, but Daggerfall was notorious for it.
So it's this amazing, deep, groundbreaking thing, but also kind of fragile.
You could say that. But even with the bugs, its depth, That cemented the series' reputation, especially with the hardcore RPG crowd. It proved Elder Scrolls was serious about deep role-playing, not just big maps.
Okay, so after Daggerfall's huge scale, things took a bit of a turn, didn't they?
Okay.
There were a couple of spin-offs.
Yeah, a little detour. In 97 and 98, we got an Elder Scrolls Legend, Battlespire, and the Elder Scrolls Adventures. Redguard.
And these weren't the typical open-world RPGs.
Nope. Battlespire was much more linear, basically a dungeon crawl through Oblivion realms. And Redguard was totally different. A third-person action-adventure game. I think Tomb Raider, maybe? But in the Elder Scrolls universe.
Interesting. So why do that? Why step away from the main formula?
Well, it seems like they were using them to experiment a bit, try different gameplay styles, different perspectives.
Testing the waters.
Sort of. But also, crucially, they use them to really flesh out the lore, explore specific bits of Tamriel's history or certain cultures in more detail than maybe fit into the main games. Redguard, for example, really dove into Hammerfell and Yokudan history.
Ah, okay. So world-building exercise, in a way, alongside the gameplay experiments, expanding the whole tapestry.
Yeah, pretty much. And then 2002, Morrowind.
Ah, Morrowind. Now that feels like a turning point for so many people. The handcrafted revolution, that description feels spot on.
Absolutely. It was a massive shift away from the procedural generation of Arena and Daggerfall. They moved to the smaller but incredibly dense and meticulously designed island, Vivardenfell.
And it looked weird, in a good way. Alien.
Totally. That was the point. The architecture, the giant mushrooms, the creatures like silt striders. It felt truly unique, not just generic fantasy. Every place felt deliberate, crafted.
And the lore just felt
Yeah.
thicker, somehow. Deeper. The Dwemer culture, the tribunal gods, all that prophecy stuff.
Oh, completely. The lore in Morrowind was incredibly intricate and woven right into the world, the quests, everything. It wasn't just background reading. You're living in this complex, somewhat hostile alien culture. And the game systems were refined, too. Still complex, lots of skills, lots of ways to build your character and tackle things. The main quest, dealing with gods, prophecies, colonialism, really heavy, engaging themes.
It just sounds so immersive. It's easy to see why it got such critical acclaim and why so many people still hold it up as this masterpiece of world building.
Yeah, it really struck a chord. It proved you could have a deep, complex RPG that was also incredibly atmospheric and unique. For many, it's still the peak.
Okay, so after the deep, complex, maybe slightly intimidating Morrowind, we get Oblivion in 2006. And this one felt like it was reaching out a bit more, right? Especially launching on the Xbox 360.
Definitely. There was a clear effort to make Oblivion more accessible, to bring in a wider audience.
How did they go about that? Visually, it was obviously a huge leap.
Huge leap. Stunning graphics for the time, better physics, and a really big change was the fully voiced characters. That alone made it feel more immediate, more cinematic for a lot of players.
Right, no more reading tons of text for every villager.
Exactly. And the interface was cleaner, more streamlined. Plus, they added quest markers. Big change. Made it much easier to figure out where to go and what to do, especially for people new to the series or open-world games in general.
So lowering the barrier to entry, in a way.
You could say that. Combat felt a bit more intuitive, less reliant on dice rolls, perhaps. And the setting itself, Cyrodiil, while still a big open world, it had a more traditional European high fantasy look compared to Morrowind's strangeness.
More castles and forests, less giant mushrooms and ash storms.
Pretty much. And it worked, commercially speaking. Oblivion was a massive success. It really introduced Elder Scrolls to a whole new generation, especially on consoles.
That shift, that streamlining. It caused a bit of a stir with the older fans, didn't it? People who loved Morrowind's complexity.
It did. There's definitely debate.
Trade in your boring job for a brilliant career using Adobe Creative Cloud. Start learning now with the free trial link in the description.
Some felt that making it more accessible meant sacrificing some of the depth, the uniqueness that made Morrowind special.
Like what specifically?
Things like the skill system being simplified, the world feeling maybe a bit more generic fantasy, the radiant AI sometimes leading to weird NPC behavior. Those were common criticisms from players who preferred Morrowind's intricate systems and alien vibe.
So the classic dilemma. How do you grow your audience without alienating the base that got you there?
Exactly that. It's a tough balancing act.
An act they continued with Skyrim in 2011, which just exploded. It went beyond RPG fans. It was a genuine mainstream phenomena.
Oh, absolutely. Skyrim hit a cultural nerve few games ever do.
What was the magic formula there, do you think?
Well, visually, it was stunning again. That Nordic setting, snow, mountains, ruins, and dragons. Dragons were a huge hook.
Can't beat dragons.
Right. The narrative around being the Dragonborn was really compelling, epic. And they refined that streamlined approach even further. Combat was more action-focused. The skill tree was simplified again with perks. It was just incredibly easy to pick up and play, but still had this enormous, engaging world packed with stuff to find.
It felt like you couldn't walk 10 feet without stumbling into a cave or a ruin or some quest.
Exactly. That density of content combined with the accessibility just made it addictive for a huge audience.
And the mods. We have to mention the modding scene. It's kept Skyrim alive for over a decade.
Phenomenal, isn't it? The open nature of the games, the tools Bethesda provides, it allows the community to just keep adding and refining and changing things. It's a huge part of the series' longevity, especially Skyrim's.
Plus all the re-releases on every platform imaginable.
Yeah. If it has a screen, Skyrim's probably on it. But it speaks to its enduring popularity.
Okay, so after conquering the single-player world, the next big step was online. The Elder Scrolls Online in 2014.
Right, taking Tamriel into the MMORPG space. This was developed by a different studio, ZeniMax Online Studios, but obviously set within the same universe.
Letting players explore Tamriel together. How does it fit in, lore-wise?
It's set way back, like centuries before the single-player games, during the Interregnum, which cleverly gives them loads of room to explore different regions and historical events without stepping on the toes of the main games too much.
And it wasn't just a one-and-done launch, right? ESO has grown a lot.
Massively. It had a bit of a shaky start maybe, but they really turned it around. Constant updates, big chapter expansions, adding whole new zones like Morrowind, Somerset, Elsewhere, Skyrim, new storylines, new features. It's built a really dedicated community.
It has become its own major pillar of the franchise.
Definitely. And it contributes a ton to the overall lore, filling in gaps and exploring areas the single-player games haven't touched yet.
Beyond the main games in ESO, there have been other excursions too, right? Mobile games and things.
Yeah, a few others trying different things. There were the early Elder Scrolls Travels games on mobile platforms way back. More recently, the collectible card game, The Elder Scrolls Legends.
Okay.
And also the Elder Scrolls Blades, which was more of an action RPG for mobile, kind of a dungeon crawler with town-building elements.
What's the thinking behind these? Just reaching different players.
Pretty much. Exploring different genres, different platforms, trying to bring the Elder Scrolls world to people who might not play a massive PC or console RPG, keeping the brand visible in different parts of the gaming market.
Makes sense. So looking back across this whole journey, from Arena's Gladiators to ESO's online world, what are the threads that hold it all together? What's the core Elder Scrolls DNA?
I think number one is that pioneering open world design. That sense of freedom was there from the start, even if the execution evolved. Player freedom, absolutely. The commitment to letting you decide who to be, where to go, what to do, create your own story within their world, that's fundamental.
In the world itself, the lore.
Oh yeah, the incredibly deep, detailed, and ever-expanding lore of Tamriel. It provides this rich, believable foundation for everything else. And you know, each main game really did try to push technology forward, push what was possible in an RPG at the time.
Constantly evolving the experience. And now, everyone's waiting. Thinking about the Elder Scrolls the Sixth, the anticipation is huge.
Palpable, isn't it? But while we wait, it's worth remembering just how much game is already there. Hundreds, thousands of hours across the existing titles.
True. There's always something left to discover in Tamriel.
Ultimately, I think the series' legacy is about ambition. Ambitious design, trusting the player, and understanding what makes getting lost in a fantasy world so compelling. It's that power to forge your own path, your own legend.
So quite a journey, from that initial gladiator idea, through procedural generation, handcrafted islands, mainstream success, online worlds. We've seen huge shifts in design, technology, everything.
And thinking about all that, maybe it's worth asking yourself, what part of the Elder Scrolls really grabs you the most? Is it just the sheer scale, the freedom to explore? Is it diving deep into all that amazing lore? The character customization? Maybe something else?
Yeah, what keeps you coming back or what makes it stand out? And also, what is this whole evolution? The streamlining in Oblivion and Skyrim, for instance. Tell us about how RPGs themselves have changed over the years.
Those are definitely things worth mulling over. And hey, if this chat has got you itching to explore more, seriously, jump back into one of the games or check out some of the amazing fan communities online.
Absolutely. There's always another adventure waiting in Tamriel.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
And that's a wrap on this deep dive. I'm Misha, and let me send out a huge thank you for listening. If you want more content on gaming, education, or other fun stuff, head over and find me on YouTube. Link is in the show notes. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next deep dive.